This is the second episode of our On Our Way podcast. Hopefully you guys watched the first one. That is a nice little prelude. However, this one is independent because we are going to get into how we temptation-proof our marriage in the digital age. But just as a short recap, can you tell everybody why we chose to do this podcast in the first place? Just in case, this is somebody's first time.
So this podcast is meant for us to promote marriage, promote the ins and outs of marriage, that there's no right or wrong way to go about doing marriage, but also sharing a little bit about how we do marriage. So we just want to share our experiences while promoting marriage as much as possible.
And being young and married, like to see, okay, if other young people are doing marriage and they like each other, they're succeeding, they're thriving, like I can do it too.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so getting into this topic, how do we temptation-proof our marriage in the digital age? First off, temptation has kind of just like skyrocketed with all kinds of forms, like with all of this media that we have. So Bubs, being a guy, how have you seen it change from when you were like a little kid, when we were little kids up until now?
I mean, it's a completely different experience. When we were kids, we had MySpace with your top 5 or top 10 friends. Like it wasn't any more than that. Like you were limited to what you could post, how often you could post. The platform was primarily used for musicians. The term content creator did not exist. So it was a different experience. And you weren't popping if you had a lame MySpace page.
Right.
Facebook started to pick up, but that was mainly, for college kids originally. And then from there, we got the Snapchats and Twitter. Then Twitter
Vines
became X
and
Vine
all kinds of stuff.
Like the digital age really, came in.
Things have been crazy. Things have been going on since the beginning of time, right? Sexually explicit content, pornography, all of these things, they're not new. They're in the Bible. Like people were doing crazy stuff since the dawn of time, but it wasn't as accessible as it is now. And so you used to have to go out of your way to go to a booby bar or to go see a booby film. But now it's just a click away, or now not even a click away. You scroll on your timeline and you're seeing basically soft pornography. I think especially now since there's so much accessible, the first thing that we did when it came to wanting to make sure that we did not have those same temptations, because especially like as a woman, everything is sexualized. And what that can do to the female brain can also affect your marriage, like make you less confident, make you always think your partner's looking at somebody else, make you insecure. And these are internal things. They have nothing to do with your partner. But as a wife, I know at least for me, I didn't want to carry those things around. And the first thing we did to help stop that immediately is we went through each other's timelines and we cleaned out
like
our
one phone
timelines.
at a time. Like one phone at a time. Open up your explore page, and what your friends like and repost, like all of that stuff pops up as well on your feed because you follow that person. So the first thing we kind of had to do was go through, and I'm like, okay, I'm tired of seeing the half naked women, this and that. And you just heard what she said, like this was early on.
Right.
This is what made us decide.
Well, we were dating.
Yeah, this is what made us decide, like, hey, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And so as soon as she told me, like, hey, this makes me feel some type of way, it's not a good feeling, and I'm like, I mean, it's just some body parts.
Because you weren't taking it like that. When that stuff would come across your feed, it wasn't like you were interested or you were like, oh, I like that stuff. Yeah. So in your head, you were like, I don't even care about this. But in my head, I'm like, even if there is a possibility, I didn't like that.
Yeah, so that's why it took us, like I said, sitting down. We're starting with the explore page. Any post that showed, half naked women, and even for me, honestly, I don't care to see half naked men either. So I went ahead and Kayla showed me you can, flag it. You can just say, I don't like this. I don't want to see more content like this. And they will filter it out. Now you open our explore pages, you see a lot of stuff like, her interest, which right now is baby stuff and baby videos, cooking videos, and then like, her normal things. And on my feed, it's basically all sports at this point. So outside of whatever stuff my friends post and stuff like that on the timeline, but that was like, that helped a lot because it doesn't give you anything to look at that, you know, is outside of that range. I think that's pretty good.
I agree. And we had to, this wasn't an overnight thing. Like, we didn't just do this one time and it fixed our complete timelines. Like, whenever we saw a post that we didn't like, we would go through and tell Instagram and tell Facebook, stop showing me posts like this. And a lot of people may get mad at me because I reported so many pages and post. If it was something that was too sexually explicit and I would want my sister looking at it, oh baby, that post or that page got reported. And that over time helped filter out our content. So now we're not, 95% of our content is clean. Now you may get the 5% from, again, the people you follow that like something and it pops up and we have to do it again. But for the most part, like, it's pretty good.
Again, that's, as a married man, that's a thought that I often have. Like, if I see something that is like that, like, again, don't like it. Like,
right.
You don't have to like acknowledge, because remember, like, in today's political society, a like is an endorsement.
Exactly.
And you know, that's how your employer sees it, all of that stuff. So I always think about it, especially from an HR perspective. Hey, they do background checks, they check your social media, like all of these things, even if it's not your actual name. So I wouldn't want, while I'm applying to a job or something like that, I wouldn't want someone to go in and see like, oh, he like Ghetto Tube and he like College Cuties, or, you know, all of these
liking
little pages,
posts.
or
what?
These Ferrari women, like whatever it is, like you go in and you like this stuff and it shows now your face, like your profile like this. Like, I see when my wife likes something I'm about to share her.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want anybody to see me liking those things or commenting under those things. For all of you men out there that's like, hey man, that's not realistic. I'm a man, I'm gonna look, da-da-da. Do you, but don't endorse it. Like, don't say like, I stamped this with my approval. She for sure is a college cutie. Like, don't go out like that, bro. That's, you don't wanna go out like that.
No. And then also, I think we took the time to clean out who we follow. I know a lot of people got mad at me because I went through a phase where I said, hang on, time out. I'm trying to build a healthy marriage. Anybody that was doing that, I know that was doing something that was contrary to building a healthy marriage, a healthy family, self-empowerment, following God, anything like that, they got unfollowed. And a lot of them are people that I used to rock with really heavy. But you know, as you go through life, your priorities change. And so talk about how we had to go through and how that was for you cleaning out your friend list.
That was different for sure. I would say, because, you know, you look at people that, again, social media has been around for a long time. We migrated from one platform to the next, continuing to add those same friends. We got a lot of the same people on the same platforms. Like, I'm from Houston, like inner city Houston. I know people I went to middle school, high school with that are strippers, sex workers.
All kinds of stuff.
Like, on top of that, it's people that's slanging dope, like all of this stuff, and glorifying it. It's not something I want to see on my feed all the time.
Right, and no judgment to them. Do what you do.
Do what you do,
but
bro.
We're just at two different places of life. Right, we're good.
I don't have to follow you and see that stuff. And it ain't no beef to you. I'm just like, you know, got a little girl coming one day, you know, if she on my phone or see what content daddy looking at on the little picture screen, I don't want her to see some little chicken shorts. I don't want her to see, you know, drugs and alcohol and all of these other things. But I remember I was getting close to 1,000 and I unfollowed every bit of, I want to say 800 something people.
Crazy.
And it went down to 203.
I think having a baby does change your perspective too, because now it's like, okay, well, sometimes we don't realize that we are drinking poison ourselves. But when you're growing a child and you're like, wow, I am responsible for how you see yourself, for your self-image. I am responsible for you growing up and thinking the world about who you are, and God, that changes things. And it's like, you know, we living for somebody else now. So I definitely think that played a big part in it. And when we say media, it's not just social media, it's also movies and music. And we definitely believe that you can get anything and all kinds of spiritual influences through movies, through music, and through what you absorb in your eyes and your ears. So we have made it a rule that whenever we watch movies, if it has divorce, if it has infidelity, if it has any kind of demonic spirits, if it has any exorcisms, if it has anything like that, we are not going to partake in that. And how has that kind of changed? I know you're a movie buff. How has that kind of changed how you look at movies?
I would say for me, man, as a filmmaker, movie buff, like all of that, and often I'll do, you know, film studies on particular directors or directors of photography, like all of that. And I'm like, okay, I want to understand their vision. And like, as recently as last night with the piano lesson, like I just wanted to see the overall cinematography, the lighting, the production aspect. Like, I love the way they told the story. Yeah. But it had demonic references in it. It's one thing to fast forward through it, but it's a whole different thing to sit there and watch it and acknowledge it and give it your attention.
Like you said, giving it your time and attention, just like giving something a like, is giving it an endorsement and saying that it's okay. Like, I'm okay with this spirit entering my space.
And I'm in that space. I look at it's almost like an out-of-body experience. Like, I gave up horror movies and all of that, like, as a child. Like, before I got to college, I grew up an only child by myself, so I used to watch that stuff and be terrified. I was scared of the dark. I felt like I couldn't sleep in the dark by myself. Damn near until me and my wife got married. Yeah. Like, I
remember that because he had to get comfortable with being in the dark.
Yeah, and as a child, like, I'm not gonna lie, I grew up seeing spirits and stuff like that. Family, we would have old houses that people done passed away in, like all of that. So for me, I'd be like, nah, I remember being a kid at my great-grandmother's house and we sleeping in the room with her in the back room, and we know it's just her and us in the bed. But we hear somebody cooking, music playing, all of this stuff going on in the living room. I said, who that is, Granny? She said, oh, that's just them, let them do their thing. I remember living in this haunted apartment with my mom, and this is when I first started staying home by myself. Man, that apartment would do some crazy stuff. From the TVs flickering, and it wasn't because of the power.
Right.
If, you know, I turn off all the lights and stuff, I would feel stuff stroking me in my sleep. Like, I'm getting tingles just thinking about it. But again, I don't want to tie myself to that stuff or let it back in my house.
Correct.
So I don't know what they chant, what they say on screen, what they can hide behind music and tones and feelings. Like, that's their job as a director, producer, all of that is to draw these emotions. So I have to be strategic in what I want to watch.
And that's when I grew up in my house, like, I always thought that my mom was being so crazy. Like, I wanted to watch Wizards of Waverly Place. Ooh. I wanted to watch all of the spooky stuff. And she would tell me, like, no, you have to turn that off. She would explain to me that literally, like, it's a spiritual transfer. And at that point, I'm like, God, we good. Like, we go to church, we pray. Yeah. Now getting older, I understand what she meant, because it's true. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience.
Yeah.
And just because you have not had like literal experiences with the spiritual realm like my husband has, we still have to be mindful. If something makes you feel uncomfortable, like, we have a meter in our head that says something ain't right. You can watch stuff as a kid that has nice music and funny, you know, plot lines over it, and it's masking truly, you know, some demonic stuff. You go back and watch that as a grown kid and you be like, what you mean y'all boiling in the Google? This is why we have to be mindful of what we watch too. There was a video on Instagram, and it was a panel of people that worked on a movie. I don't remember the scary movie, but she was saying that they had to put a spell in one scene. Well, she said she did research, she Googled some stuff and came up with this spell, right? Well, she got calls from people that dabbled in the spiritual realm, and they were calling after watching the show, and they were saying, hey, do you know that this is a real spell that you are using? Like, this is real stuff. Like, you cannot put this in here. You don't know what you're doing to people's homes. And she didn't realize it at the time, but she put such a real spell in the show that it was actually a portal. And you know, again, if you access, I'm telling you. And when you're watching things and you don't realize it, you are saying yes. By not giving your no, you are saying yes. And they were like, if you do not modify this, like, you are going to mess people up. And so when you think about it like that, and people that are doing these horror movies, I know it is a special genre. My husband is a filmmaker. It takes, talent to do that, but we just have to be careful about what we accept into our homes.
Yeah, and again, it's gonna continue to be made. It's always been around. There was always some form of witchcraft, all of this stuff. Like, again, the Bible wouldn't prepare you for it.
Exactly.
Like, if it didn't exist. So, I kind of just say, like, you know, be mindful, man.
And the last thing I feel like when it comes to media that we have cleaned out in our household is music. I know that in my experience, it was literally like an instinct. You need to change the music that you listen to, because even when I would work out, I put on the nastiest songs that I could find, and I'd be like, "Ooh, yeah, my booty do look like that."
Building that booty.
I'm telling you. And it got to a point to where God was like, okay, so you're gonna pray to me in the morning, then right after go to the gym, and you're gonna fill your mind with this stuff, and you're gonna go throughout your day and think you're gonna have the same day that you did when you just woke up. You're canceling it out, babes. Yeah. And so I had to find alternatives like Christian hip hop, and not even Christian hip hop. I still listen to R&B and stuff, but when it comes to super hypersexual content or super depressing content that people are putting out, like, there's a frequency to that music. And sometimes
sad girl, sad boy music, like the Juice WRLD stuff where they like glorifying the popping pills, all of that stuff, because I'm sad, I got a disorder, and like I said, the music about the infidelity, and that may be something you're experiencing, so you relate to it and you want to play it harder, but maybe y'all, maybe y'all got this connection that even though things are bad, y'all gonna make it out and you gonna hold him down, or you gonna hold her down. Like, think about what you telling yourself. Right. What you are telling yourself is okay and is normal because your favorite R&B artist is saying it's okay and it's normal.
Right. What's that? What is that? He's a shorter rapper. What's his name? The shorter rapper that at his concerts people were having to walk out because
Lil Uzi.
Lil Uzi Vert. That was another one. Like, when he first came out, I was like, okay, like, he's got a different vibe. Not my vibe, but a different vibe.
Him and Lil Nas X, like, all of that demonic stuff with the horns and, like,
push me to the edge, all my friends are dead. Like, these are things that they're set to funky beats, so you think, oh, let me just vibe out.
Then they get so popular that they put it in the kids' video games as skins and playable characters and all of that, and they're like, hey, this is how it should be.
And it's walking you to suicide.
Walking you to suicide, walking you to depression, like. And you don't realize how much power you have in it, guys. I used to have all of my Sirius XM radio stations set. I had like 3 different rap channels if they wasn't playing what I wanted. My R&B stations, my slow jams, like all of that. And a lot of those oldies, they singing about infidelity, and
it's not just the new generation. It's not just the new. Nothing's
you
new.
You literally have to filter it out. And I know what you're thinking, like, bro, that's exhausting.
It is.
So get started now.
It is an exhausting process to do all of these things, but I think in our marriage, it has helped us create a stronger covenant, a stronger bond, and create boundaries, even in the spiritual realm, about, hey, this is not gonna be something that we're dealing with. You're gonna have to try something else.
Well, that's another episode in the books. Again, guys, like, just to reiterate, you are in control of the media you consume. in your marriage and as an individual person, a lot of that media will dictate how your view on the world, your feeling when you wake up in the morning, and what's on your mind and what you're going to bed with. So like, just again, you may have a partner that's like, well, he loves horror movies, or she loves slasher films, she's always been into them, or he's a filmmaker and he specializes in that. You know, work that out. Yeah. Talk about, okay, what are our limitations? What parts do we not partake in? I know we get a lot of flack from people to say like, oh, well, you're supposed to cut it cold turkey. Keep continually seeking the kingdom.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff that he wants from us, as long as we're seeking the kingdom, that stuff's gonna naturally fall off of our life. I was a huge J. Cole fan. Like, I'm talking every day. I still listen to him, but it's not nearly as much. I listen to NFL radio more than I listen to music in general, or praise music. Yeah. And I've gone back in an effort to help myself with cursing in my everyday speech and conversation while I continue to work in image of the Lord and seeking the kingdom. Like, I have to go back and say, okay, if I'm gonna listen to this, I'm gonna at least listen to the clean version of it, where it ain't no cussing, killing, effing, did all of that. Like,
start there. Start just eliminating the explicit versions, and then take it in steps if you need to. You know what I mean? But I definitely think you're right about that. You have to set you have to set boundaries. Yeah. Our words ain't Bible. Yeah. We are not God. How we do things may not be something that you do. You know, our version may be a little extreme, or you may have gone further than us. So that's why I love what you said. Seek the kingdom. God will pull on your heart and start convicting you and tell you, hey, this is something I need you to change. And he'll do that. Mm-hmm. But that's work between you and him, and you, him, and your spouse, not between anybody else.
I'm telling you, turn the shouters into doubters, man.
That's it.
All right, baby.